We are very lucky to have Max Lenderman in the house. He is the founder and CEO at School, a purposeful creative agency based in Boulder, San Francisco, and New York City. He was previously executive creative director at MDC Partners, The Arsenal, and director of Outeractive at Crispin Porter Bogusky, where he led the multinational agency's experiential practice. As an author, his first book titled Experience the Message, How Experiential Marketing is Changing the Brand World, was a Business Book of the Year finalist and has been cited as the best book on experiential marketing, which sounds like a pretty good thing. His latest work, Brand New World, How Oligarchs, Paupers, and Pirates Are Changing Business, and I'm pretty sure I mispronounced that first one, has been translated into 5 languages. Max is a lecturer at the University of Colorado's Boulder Digital Works, a visiting professor at Solvay Business School, a leadership board member at Project Worldwide, a founding board member of the International Experiential Marketing Association, and a fervent supporter of Arsenal AC. So, without further ado, your last speaker tonight, the amazing Max Lenderman.
I fucking hate bios. Bios mean nothing. No, that was my first F-bomb. There'll be more. Definitely be more. I'm a little freaked out standing here, and this is the talk, because I want to asterisk this whole talk. The first reason I'm freaked out is I'm probably the second to last person that stands between you and beer. Which is weird, you know, which is like, God forbid I'm the guy that's gonna do that. But the second thing is, everything that I might tell you has the possibility of being completely wrong, right? Like, I don't know, like, right? So that's a big asterisk, right? So my asterisk to you is like, I'm here to try to talk to you about how to give a shit. It could be totally wrong. I don't know how to invite you to give a shit, but what I can do is I can kind of give you a roadmap to how I sort of got to give a shit as a creative director, and maybe like inspire some thoughts, right? And I think that's all I could possibly do. So yeah, so take it with a giant asterisk grain of salt. Okay, so the first step to trying to give a shit is to go on a hard adventure, right? It could happen when you're young, it could happen when you're not so young, it could happen whenever, but you have to go on a hard adventure. And what I mean about a hard adventure is you need to go out into the world and rely on the goodness of others, right? And I'm not talking about like both weekends at Coachella, right? I'm not talking about that shit, right? Like, I'm not talking about like, maybe you could do like the Appalachian Trail or something like that, but like, you need to go out there in the world and literally have other people save your life, right? Or maybe not totally save your life, but find you shelter, find connection, right? Give you something that actually gives, you a little bit of hope. Now, you also have to have a hard adventure because you have to allow people to really fuck with you, right? Because that's gonna allow you to understand what you're made out of, right? So you have to come out and go to a hard adventure to find places where you excel in goodness and where you excel in badness, right? And you have to understand where those things are, where on the scale of goodness and badness you excel. And that can't really happen in a cubicle, can't happen in a classroom, it can't happen on a business trip, can't happen at like the bar at the Gramercy Park Hotel, right? It has to happen in places where you feel very uncomfortable, right? And so for me, that happened when right after college I went to the Peace Corps. And I spent 2 years in Chad, Africa, drilling water wells in deserts. And there were times where there was guns pointed at my head, and there were times where people who had absolutely no food to give to their children gave food to me, right? And you accept it. And you understand deep down in your mind that holy shit, right? There's something greater than myself in this industry, in this life, whatever. So you have to kind of find yourself in very uncomfortable positions, And I kind of say go on a hard adventure. Okay? We know this, right? You have to study your craft and practice often. By the simple fact that you guys are here gives me a good sense of that you probably have like a 15 to 25% give a shit like coefficient right now. Which is good, because I would give the rest of the world at like 3%. Or at least our world, right? Between us. Right? Our world is like 3%, 5%. We give a shit about the work we do. You know, Matt said, like, if you fucking put something out there, that's the second one. If you put something out there and no one like gives a shit and it's wallpaper, you're like, yeah, whatever, I did my job, I'll go home, right? If you don't feel that that's fucking crazy, that no one gave you props for the crazy effort that you put in to come up with an original idea, and no one, and like the crickets are playing, you know, like, you should be pissed off as hell, right? And that should take you back to practice your craft, study your craft, practice it often, right? I always say, like, don't have hobbies. Fuck your hobbies. Third one, right? You practice your craft. You want to be a good creative director? You want to be a really good strategist? You don't like go to work just thinking about, well, Jeff knows, he knows how to reconstruct a Mustang. But like, you don't go thinking like, oh, I can't wait to get home to do this, the other thing that I always wanted to do. Just do that. Go do that. Like, if you're a creative director and you want to be super hyper creative, you kill your hobbies. You kill them, and you put all your energy into the craft that you chose for yourself. Period. Another step to how to give a shit, right? You come to stuff like this, and you become convinced that you want to get better. Who's convinced that they want to get better in this room? Fuck yeah. It's 4. You have to be convinced. You can't be like, oh, I want to get ahead in my job. No. You have to be like, I want to be as good as it gets. And if people don't recognize it, who cares? You're an artist. Okay, practice your craft. Practice it often. Then you have to toil in meaninglessness. You have to toil in meaninglessness. My first big promotion in my career, I became ECD at an unnamed agency, an Omnicom agency in Chicago. And I was so pumped I was ECD. I was like, man, it's awesome. And they're like, cool, you're going to introduce Axe body spray to the North American market. Okay, all right. Axe body spray's like mantra, their like reason to believe is helps guys win in the mating game. Like that was like what I worked for 4 years. Like we had like human car washes, we had like, you know, like the shower gel was like how dirty boys get clean. And like I came up with that tagline and everyone's like, that is genius. I'm like, fuck. Oh shit. And then I had like a daughter and I'm like, fuck again. And then I had another daughter, I'm like, I gotta quit. Like I can't work on this account anymore. I can't be in like Broland, you know, like these dudes just like, I can't get in there. But you toil in meaninglessness. As a creative director, you do. You know, at Crispin, like, fuck, does anyone really care how fat, like where in the processing line their pizza is? Like I'm gonna fucking go online and be like, oh, my pizza is getting its toppings now. I'm great. Right? But that wins a CyberCon award. So you do it. You fucking do it. And I'm here to say it's okay. We all do it. Like it's cool. It really is, right? All right, cool. So then you get really good at what you do, right? And then things are like, wow, I'm really good at what we do, or what I do. When I was at Crispin, there was a t-shirt that came around and it said, good enough sucks. And I was like, yeah, that's exactly right. Good enough sucks. If you're good at what you do, and you get an idea, or you come up with an idea, or anything like, and people are like, that's a really good idea, you should have this like, kind of like this knee-jerk reaction of like, really? I don't trust you. Because you kind of like saying that it's pretty good, but I want you to just like flail and just like go crazy. I want you to like throw plates at a wall. right? I want people to be like, this is the most incredible thing ever, and no one but you could have come up with it. That's what you want, right? So you actually, like, you start to get to a place where you know you're really good at what you do. Because you constantly remind yourself that good enough sucks. Good enough sucks, good enough sucks. Wake up in the morning, good enough sucks. Go to bed, good enough sucks. Remember, you have no hobbies, right? You have no life, but thinking that good enough sucks, right? And that's really important because I personally believe that if you're mediocre, you probably don't give a shit, right? Like, if you kind of like feel like you're good, you don't give a shit. How can you give a shit about high order stuff if you don't give a shit about the things that you put out there every day? About the relationships that you create with your clients, the relationship that you create with your creative teams, your account directors. Like, if you think that like this is fine, you definitely don't give a shit. You can get out of that rut, but you also have to understand that giving a shit is directly proportional to how good you are. And how good you are, right, is what's going to make you happy. So just remember that. Okay, good. Good enough sucks. Then you find out that notice that being really good and toiling and meaninglessness does not align. You're going to find that. You're going to realize they're like, whoa, 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 whoa. There's like really good stuff that I'm capable of. And yet there is all this stuff that I do. Right? And so like the juxtaposition of being great at something, but being great at something that has no meaning is gonna fuck you up. You will not sleep. You will not eat. You will kick puppies. You'll be angry. Sometimes it's good to be an angry creative director. It's sometimes fun, you know? But you carry on for more than a year like that, you'll get fired. And you probably won't do it ever again. But you know, but the point is, like, greatness sort of supersedes meaninglessness, right? So if you get really good at your craft, if you get really good at what you do, then you probably are going to start thinking naturally, like, why am I doing this? Right? There's this whole thing about never lead with what, always lead with why. If you're good, you'll get to that question. If you're not, you probably won't. But for the future of the world, and for future generations of this like society and the globe, I hope you ask your question every single day, am I great? Probably most of the time you will say no. But asking that question will also directly lead to the point of, am I doing something meaningful? So you're going to find in your career that being really good and toiling meaningless does not align. So then you have to choose. And I had notes like on everything, and on the choose slide, it's fucking empty. Like, I have no fucking advice to give to you on that part. You can choose to be great, right? You can choose to be meaningless and probably rich, or you can choose to do something completely new, right? And there's a hybrid of all those things. But that's the one thing that I would never be able to tell anyone. I could only tell you how I came about doing that, right? And I came about like figuring out, how do I give a shit about the work that I do? How do I truly give a shit about the work that I do? Is I look at myself in the mirror really often. Shoot, take really long showers. I'm serious. You know, like, I don't know if you guys have this, but like I have this like 20, 30 times a day, where I'm just like, in my head, I'm like, Jesus fucking Christ, Max, did you really just fucking do that? Right? And most of the time I just leave it at that, and sometimes I'm just like, let's have this fucking conversation. All right, right? Like, don't give up on those conversations, those internal conversations. Like, have a fucking argument with yourself. You know? Be like, you know, like, yeah, I did that shit. Yeah, I did it. But I did it because of this, right? Or I can't believe I'm such a dick. Why am I such a dick? Well, you're a dick because you probably like can't express yourself properly and you have like huge egos. You know, like, have those conversations. Like, be the counterpoint. Be like the best friend to yourself. And the more you have those conversations, a little bit like, it's like personal empathy, you know what I mean? Like put yourself in the alter ego of yourself, right? And then you have those thoughts and listen to those thoughts. Listen to when you tell yourself why you did something. Like, those are incredibly great road marks on not only being a great creative person, but being a good person, right? And so, like, look yourself in the mirror. Don't forget the conversation. I started an agency called School 2 years ago because I was in the shower, and no, that's not why. We were a shower company. But I remembered a moment in time when I was in the Peace Corps, when I had a hard adventure. And I was in the Peace Corps, and I had this these people that came to me, and we had like a really hard time communicating. It was in the middle of the desert, and there was gunfire, and I was like, and it came to me in the shower, and all of a sudden I had the conversation with me. It's like, why do I not think about things like this anymore? Why am I thinking about Cuervo, right? And how to sell more tequila in the shower. And I realized something in that shower. I continued the conversation. Well, I don't, because I want to make money and my family's happy here. And, you know, I'm working for Crispin and they're fucking awesome. And the people I love there and all this stuff. And then you just have this conversation in the shower. You keep talking. And then it came to me. I said, well, why can't I have all that and still have a mission? Why can't I do something good for the world? Have exactly everything that I just said, but do it better. Well, better is a wrong word. Do it gooder. Right? And so we started an agency called School, where we partnered with an organization called Pencils of Promise, and so we build schools in developing nations, in Guatemala, in Ghana, in Laos. And in our P&L, instead of spending a bunch of money like chasing awards or throwing a lot of cash at creative directors out in New York or LA, we put all that kind of like retention and acquisition money into building schools, right? And so it was a simple conversation I had in the shower that changed I wouldn't say life, but my career forever. Because in that shower, I realized the power of giving a shit. Right? Because I did understand the world. I was good at my craft. I did toil in meaninglessness. Like, all those things were actually happening, and I went, bam, I'm gonna look at myself in the mirror constantly. I'm gonna reevaluate what I do constantly. And the big thing that happened in that shower is I realized that there's an awesome power in working for others. And I don't mean working for your clients. You gotta work for your clients. Right? And I don't really mean working for your colleagues. Like, we're cool, everyone likes each other, but like, you know, everyone goes home. Right? And I thought it was like working for my family. I was like, oh, I'm working for my girls, like their future. Right? I'm working hard for that. But there's a huge ambivalence for that, because they're like, Daddy, come home, don't work so hard. Like, hang out with us. I'm like, shit, I can't do that. So I'm not fucking working for them. Right? I'm not working for them. So the final element of like how to really give a shit is to work for others. And in our lobby at School, we have a series of photographs like this, right? And it reminds me every time I go in and turn on the lights that I'm not working for my clients. I love my clients. Say, you guys are videotaping, yeah. Right? And I love my people. I love working with everyone. And I love my family, hey honey. But really, you have this kind of like amorphous construct of who to work for. And I work for little girls in Guatemala, Laos, and Ghana that I've never met before. That's who I work for as a creative director. I don't even make ads. I build schools. Ads just happen to have the money that comes with building schools. So if you could take those steps and you could actually find a place, like if you actually, unplanned, but let's take like 5 seconds of silence, right? Just 5 seconds of silence of who would you work for if it wasn't for your boss, your colleagues, your clients, your family. 5 seconds. You're on the road to giving a shit. Thank you so much.